guys, it's Alex. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a skeleton inspired Jasmine makeup tutorial. If you guys have not seen my Halloween trailer, I will link it down below, but pretty much I'm taking 4 Disney princesses and making them dead versions of the Disney princesses, and then I do have the Evil Queen as well. So go check that out. There's going to be more to come. I will list any other makeup tutorials that I've already posted, as well as my Halloween playlist. Alright, so if you guys want to see how to get this look, then just keep on watching.
The first thing I'm doing is using this foundation brush from SL Miss Glam Beauty, and I'm outlining the sockets of my eyes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go underneath the sockets and we're just going to fill in with a bunch of white. And right here is a Makeup Revolution, one of those oval brushes. I will link the set down below for you guys. So I'm just using that to blend in the white all over my face. So, and make sure you get it on your lips too. Now we're going to add more paint onto the brush, and we're going to go underneath our neck, underneath the jaw, even a little bit underneath the ear area, and bring down all the white. So I zoomed out a little bit so you guys can see, because I'm going to be putting it on my collarbone, a little bit on my chest as well. So yes, I am wearing a shirt. Just to let you guys know, I am not naked this entire time I've had a shirt on. And what's great about the Jasmine costume is that there's a lot of open space for you guys to see, kind of like the outline of the ribs. So that's why I picked Jasmine to be the skeleton. And then I just went back in with this oval brush and I put some white all over my forehead. Used a little tiny one just to get around this little area because I didn't want to get too much on my brows, and I'm just buffing it in more. Now we're going to go back in with the SL Miss Glam Beauty foundation brush and add on a second layer. We were working on the forehead and on the throat and the chest, so now this is dry, so we can go back in with that second layer, and then we'll go back and add more white onto the other areas of our body as well. So this is just adding another layer just so it's a little bit thicker, you see less of your skin. So as you can see, I'm going back onto my neck and onto my collarbone and my chest, and then I'm going to go onto my forehead as well, just adding on some more paint just to get that second layer going. Now we're going to start doing the nose, and I'm using the Wet n Wild small concealer brush, and I'm just going on the tip of my nose and then onto that front part of my nose as well. It's hard to see my B. And then we're going to go onto the top and then work our way towards our eyes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a V shape. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure it looks kind of like a V. Then we're going to go right here, right above where we had the socket, and put a black line. So I'm just using this, I don't even know which brush it is, honestly. It's one of the e.l.f. like small smudge brushes. I'll try to figure it out and let you guys know down in the description box. But we're just kind of outlining right above where we had the lining for the socket. Now we're going to put black paint on the center of our lips, and then also kind of working on the way out. Sorry if it's a little hard to see, but I'm just using that small concealer brush from Wet n Wild. Then we're going to put a line using that same brush from that little crack in your lip up into the cheekbone, and we're going to do that on both sides. So take your time, do a little shading if you want to now. You could always go back and later and do that. You just want to get the basic outline first. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a line like right below the cheekbone and kind of go in the same direction as the socket, and we're just going to have it kind of curve a little bit. And now we're going to create another line coming down from that line that we just put down, and it's going to look kind of like a wishbone, and we want to make sure that line that came from your lips is kind of in the center of that. So you want to curve that extra line around it and underneath of it. Then we're going to do that on the other side. So as you can see, I'm kind of adding on a little bit more of a layer on top of this one, and then we're going to kind of bring it down. Then we're going to go back on each side of the wishbone and just fill it in more with some black paint, do a little shading just to make it look a little bit nicer. And then also thickening that center part of the wishbone that's more towards the hairline, and doing some more shading. Still using the Wet n Wild small concealer brush. And then we're going to create a line coming down from the center of our nose, down our lip, and down to our chin. And we're going to stop right above where you feel that bump on your chin. And then we're just going to create lines to the left and right of that and work our way down that line that's coming out from your lips towards each side of the wishbone. Then I want to connect this line to the wishbone just because I thought it would be a little bit nicer to connect the teeth that way. So I wanted to pull that up a bit. And now we're going to start creating the teeth, which is the fun part. To do the teeth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a backwards J. So that's a backwards J, and then when you're coming from the other side, it's just a regular J. So it kind of gives a little bit of a curve to it because your teeth aren't completely, pointy and perfectly square. They have a little curve to it, and it also helps to add some shading. So if you're coming from the left side, you're going to do a J, and when you're coming from the right side towards the left, you're going to do a backwards J. And then you're going to do that for both the top and the bottom teeth. So I work my way out from the wishbone towards the nose. Then I decided that I wanted to kind of bring out the line from the top part of the wishbone a little bit towards my nose, just because I felt like the teeth were kind of floating and I wanted there to be a little bit more of a connection. So as I'm going through and adding the teeth, I'm kind of bringing that line a little bit closer towards the nose, just so that those top teeth have something to connect to. That's just my personal preference. I just didn't like them floating. Now I'm just going back over the teeth and just trying to do a little bit of shading. I'm kind of pulling out the black line and using some of the paint there just to create some gray and some shading, just to give it a little bit more texture so they look more like teeth and not just these flat lines. Now I'm just putting little lines at the center of the teeth, and I'm going to try to shade that out. So it's a little thick when you put it on, so I would suggest, kind of putting a little bit of the paint on your hand, so that way it's a little bit more light-handed when you go in the center, and just make it a little bit more gray and shade it out. Now I'm just going back and forth through the teeth, just trying to shade it out more, and I'm going to go underneath the jaw as well, just to get a little bit more shading going on there. Now we're going to create another line right between the wishbone and then the socket lining, and we're going to have it curve down a little bit, and we're also going to put another line a little bit above it. So my look is a little bit high, so I kind of had a hard time kind of fitting in that second line in between. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing the other parts of your look, but I just like to have the two lines like that. And then I'm just kind of going back and forth just to make them a little bit more thick and filled in. Alright, so now we're going to put cracks in the skull, and we're going to put them on the chin. So I'm kind of going underneath my chin and then working my way up, just kind of creating lines that kind of look like Ys and putting them all underneath. And then I'm also shading a little bit underneath my jaw too, just to get that a little bit lower. And as you can see right here, I'm making that crack. It's like a little Y, and try to make it more light-handed. I know when you first go in with a brush like this and have the paint on, it's going to be a little bit darker. So wipe some off on your hand, and then that will help make it a little bit more gray. You see, that was a lot of paint. I should have wiped a little bit on my hand, but I was lazy. So yeah, just go around your entire jaw and do those like little Ys and work your way up towards the mouth. Now I'm just going back through and doing a lot more shading. Shading is so important when it comes to a skull look. So I'm kind of going underneath the jaw and just around different areas, making sure the lines look good, they're shaded, they're not too harsh. And then I'm making weird faces, so enjoy that. Then I'm going around the wishbone here, shading as well, so just keep doing that. Shading will definitely help your look to look more realistic. So right here where I'm pointing, there's like this little indentation, and that is where I'm going to put some black paint, because where you feel the collarbone, that's where you want it to be white, and right behind it, that's where you want the black to be. So you can kind of feel around to where your bones are to see, where you should put the black and where you should put the white. Obviously, the white would be where your bones are, and the black is kind of like in that empty space. So that's kind of how I figured out how to do this as well. Also, looking at pictures online is really helpful, so I would suggest doing that. And to fill in, I started off with the Wet n Wild Small Concealer Brush just because I wanted something a little bit more precise, something more forgiving. I didn't want to use too big of a brush just because I wanted to make sure that, I didn't get a little too crazy with this, because I'm trying to be a little bit more precise with the ribs. So as you can see, I did a little black line. That was right underneath where my collarbone is. And then right in the center here, you can kind of feel a little indentation. So I put some black there as well and just filled in that area. So yeah, see, I'm like feeling myself around, trying to find my ribs, just to kind of give an idea. Some of it was kind of hard to tell, so I was just like, okay, just want to do some equal spacing with the black line so that they're not too close together. And then I kind of wanted to fill in the throat area as well, which that was a little bit more complicated. That I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to put lines, maybe like a centimeter apart or an inch apart, I don't know, just so that there's some space in between, kind of work it towards the center of where my throat is, and then yeah, just keep adding in those lines. So pretty much what I'm doing is I'm going to put 3 lines on my neck on each side, so 3 per side, and then right underneath my jaw, I'm just going to add a little bit of black just to give it a little bit more depth. So actually that would be like 4 lines on each side, but the one is kind of like hidden underneath the jaw a little bit. The 3 kind of stand out a little bit more underneath. But yeah, the one that's underneath the jaw is to kind of give them a little bit more depth. So I kind of go back through each line and try to connect stuff. So right here I'm connecting it down to that collarbone area. And I'm pretty much going to outline the bone on my shoulder. So I also put black behind it. And yeah, so just kind of feel around your body. I put on some black kind of going up my jaw towards my ear. And I take my time with it. I kind of do like little pieces. I don't do everything all at once. I kind of do the little pieces and it kind of helps me connect the dots. So just take your time. So here I go again, trying to feel around to see where my ribs are. And then I'm just adding in another rib right here. So just adding a line down. You don't have to put anything too close together because you want to have some room to shade as well. So you see on the left side, it's my right side, but you'll see it to the left. It was a little close. I didn't have as much room for shading. So kind of just keep that in mind whenever you're doing those lines. All right, now we're going to do the eyes, which is awesome. I'm just using the Wet n Wild Small Concealer Brush, and I'm just filling in that open area around my eyes with black paint. So I'm kind of just working around, kind of making an outline, and I'm going to be covering my brows as well. And then just slowly itching my way towards my eye. I got really close to my eye, on top of my eye. Be careful not to get the paint in your eye or let it drip in your eye. But man, I did get close. You probably shouldn't be getting close with paint, but whatever. This is for Halloween and it's fun, so just be careful. Now I'm going to give my skeleton some brows, so I'm just kind of outlining them there. I'm going to do some shading there too. And also shading around my head. I kind of want like more of a black outline that's kind of grayed out with some shading, and then we're going to be putting in some cracks later as well. So just work your way around, try to like pull some of the black paint out because sometimes it can be a little bit harsh. It's a lot of back and forth, especially with a look like this. All right, now we're going to be doing the cracks on the forehead. So you just kind of make those V shapes, you know, try to get them to be as gray as possible. Sometimes they're a little bit black, but you know, honestly, if some are black, some are gray, some are like almost barely, you can barely see them, that gives that kind of like a layering effect. It makes it a little bit more gradient, which is awesome. So I ended up going around my forehead even more and trying to get the black into my hairline. Getting it a little bit on my hair, it comes out, no big deal. So just kind of buffing it in, also kind of graying it out. Now I'm just going in with black paint and kind of going down the back because there's that bone there. So I'm just kind of outlining the bone right there on the other side to give it a little bit more depth. Oh my gosh, there's so much to doing this. There's a lot more shading. Like I said, take your time to kind of connect the dots. So I'm kind of bringing this in a little bit more. I think the like throat area is a little too open, so I'm kind of bringing it in, but with more gray, not so harsh. And then kind of doing a lot of back and forth, like little tiny lines down the center. Normally I'm like blend, 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 but with this tutorial, it's like shade, 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 shade. Now we're going to go in with this Wet n Wild small eyeshadow brush, and I just dip that into the white paint. I'm just going around and touching up anything. Like right there, I saw that, you know, there was some bare skin, or maybe there's some stuff that was smudged too much, and I just kind of want to touch it up. So I'm just using that brush to touch up any place that I feel is needed to be touched up. So don't feel bad if you have to go back and cover something up. It's no big deal. And then as you see here, I'm also taking that e.l.f. small, whatever eyeshadow brush it is, and just going and touching up any of the black areas that I want to touch up as well, especially like, you know, those cracks, those brows, anything that needs to be touched up or filled in, adding more cracks, go for it. Now I'm putting on additional layer of the black paint onto my eyelid using the Wet n Wild small concealer brush, and also going in and shading more of the throat and different areas around the throat and the collarbone, just trying to add some shade. So I'm kind of putting like little lines in between each of the ribs and the throat bones or whatever, and just trying to shade that way. Alright, so the number one thing that you guys have learned from the skeleton makeup tutorial, I hope, is that whenever you're doing a skeleton, you want to shade, 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 and shade. For the final touches, I went in with the Wet n Wild Max Volume Mascara, and I put that on my upper and lower lashes, and then off camera, I went in with the Too Faced Better Than Sex Mascara on the upper lashes only. Then lastly, I went in with a black eyeliner, and I put that on my upper and lower waterline.
That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you have not subscribed to my channel already, please make sure to hit the subscribe button below. Like this video if you've liked it, and I will see you all in the next video.